finances are straight. Patches, yeah, everything's good. So I'm delighted to be here. Glenn, it's good to see you. And there's a bunch of folks on here I know. And so it's always nice to, guys, I got to tell you, some of y'all that have heard me talk before. I mean, I used to push back against Zoom so bad it wasn't even funny. When that fourth edition came out and they started talking about modem to modem, we were gonna boycott AA altogether. We were gonna start our own fellowship because that was just ridiculous, And here we are, all these years later. thank God we've had Zooms. It's been a godsend, and I've sure made a lot of friends over the last 18 months or so. And I got to tell you, we're seeing a big old surge here in Texas. A bunch of these old rednecks down here getting sick, and I'm grateful that we still have a bunch of these meetings out there because there's a bunch of these little face-to-faces are closing down again. So everybody be careful, dadgummit, and let's keep carrying that message. And we were, like I said, laughing that nobody was ever going to get sober in a Zoom meeting, and we're seeing thousands of them get sober in Zoom meetings. So. When a bunch of people get together, it doesn't make any difference, face to face or modem to modem. We're still can laugh and enjoy each other and hold each other accountable and do the things that we need to do. So I'm delighted to be here this morning, guys. It's been a crazy week, and Ingram, Texas is just northwest of San Antonio. We're about 65 miles from San Antonio, right about in the center of Texas. And back up in the hills. That's why they call this the hill country. And it's looks a lot like, I don't know, any other area that's got hills. It's just nothing special about it. But I'm sitting right out here on the river, or Guadalupe River, and you could look out this window, you could see it. And I'm about 6 miles from where I took my first drink, and Boone's Farm apple wine. And it just, yeah. All the old hippies are smiling in there. Yeah, yeah. Some of you youngins never gotten any of that. On your next little relapse, go find you some Boone's Farm apple wine. Yeah, it'll get you downtown. I guarantee you. It'll make you sicker than a dog, but it'll get you downtown. And nasty stuff. I was drinking with this old kid of mine. This was January 1971, guys. It was the month that Bill Wilson passed away, our co-founder. I took my first drink, and my father was an alcoholic, guys, and I'd watched him drink beer all his life, and he'd drink some whiskey occasionally, and one of the sweetest guys you'd ever come across. He'd give us sips of his beer every once in a while as kids, but I never had enough in my system to do anything. And that night with the Boone's Farm, I got changed, and I understood that just clear as day why my dad drank, and it was some good stuff. And I don't know, guys. It was the first time I remember. I've talked to 1,000 people about it, and they all have the same experience. They verbalize it a little bit different, but it was the first time I ever, like I said, I was 17 years old. I guess it's the first time I ever remember breathing all the way in and all the way out, being comfortable in my skin. This wasn't about being a little crazy little adolescent with one eye. This was about being an untreated alcoholic at 17 and finally getting some alcohol in my system and made me okay. And I got to tell you, for so many years, I just didn't understand that alcohol does different things for me than it does for other people, normal people. My little sister can take a drink and have a completely different experience than me. And she's not an alcoholic. I got 2 sisters that didn't catch the bullet. And y'all talked to Myers before on this meeting, and he and I were identical twins, and we caught the bullet. Genetics, guys, and it's just that simple. Raised out in Odessa, Texas, and out in the oil field. And my father was a printer and a craftsman, just a beautiful man, and just gentle as could be. And so blessed to have had the parents I had. Mom was a professional artist and kind of pretty high profile. And we had a great life. We were on the front row of the Baptist church every time the door opened. And I always laugh about it. Hindsight, looking back, we didn't have a lot of money, but I never, went to school hungry or with dirty clothes. I was just, we were raised well. And there was no violence in our home, and nothing to cause, no trauma that's going to cause me to be an alcoholic. Guys, it's genetic, and then the jury's in. And if any of y'all, I can put my email on there. If any of you want some information on that stuff, we sure got to, at one point or another, got to stop pointing fingers at why we're alcoholic. Other than that, because all of that other stuff can exacerbate the problem, but it doesn't make us alcoholics. You got to have the makeup to do it. So, and we did, and buddy, I got to tell you, I took off right after high school, and I stayed local for a while, and ended up going to Houston with my twin brother. I wanted to be a professional chef, guys. I was a busboy at this hotel. This is back in the day. It seems like before child labor laws, guys. I was 16 years old. I was out there. I mean, I was working hard at this hotel in town, and they could work your butt off. And I mean, there was many a night I'd work till 2:00 in the morning and come home and go back to school the next morning. And thank God for my father, and learn some good work ethics. And I just kept continually rising up. But I wanted to be a cook, and those guys back there looked so cool in their white hats and the checkered pants, and they were all drinking beer on the job, and some of them were actually dating. I thought that was a cool thing, and anyway, I got the opportunity to start cooking, and I don't know. All the stories that you hear about drunk cooks are pretty well true. It's an industry that looks the other way, still do. As long as you do the work, nobody gives two poots if you're drunk at 6:00. And I'm digging it. And my twin brother and I decided to move to Houston. I had an opportunity because of my employer to get an apprentice job in Houston at a big old fancy hotel. And, it's tall cotton. I come from the sticks of Texas, and I ended up in Houston at this big fancy smancy hotel. All the chefs loved me. It was I was the hardest worker you ever come across. And I got to just vignette in here, because I got to remember to tell you, I'm going to share my experience here. My experience may be completely different than your experience. So I don't want to argue with anybody. Sometimes, I found out a long time ago, I heard an old timer say it one time, AA is not really popular in AA sometimes. Y'all got that? Yeah. Some of these folks like these. Yeah. So I just need to throw that out there. I was talking to a guy. We had an AA conference here locally, and last weekend I was talking to this old guy, and every time he turned around, he was trying to paint a picture that all alcoholics are goofy. And I just need to tell you, folks. And Silkworth wrote a great little article on it. I can send it to you. But guys, we're not different. There's a book out there in New Zealand called I won't tell you what it's called, but I can send it, the name of it to you, but it talks about, so we're not different than other people. We're different than other drinkers. And this old guy kept wanting to paint pictures that all alcoholics are goofy to the core, and we're all strange, and we're, because we're alcoholic, and that's just not true. There's a lot of people I know out there that are goofy. I mean, come on, guys, in Alcoholics Anonymous, my sober date is November 13th, 1987, and I spent 7 years in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous before that. So I've been around about 40 years in this. There are some goofy people in Alcoholics Anonymous. There are. There's some goofy people at my work that are not alcoholics. There's some strange people at church. I just you don't have to be an alcoholic to qualify for goofy. And it offends me a little bit when people want to keep beating that horse to death. I sponsor a little guy right now that is cheating on his wife, and he came back with the deal. Well, what do you expect? I'm an alcoholic. It's you cheating on your wife has got nothing to do with being an alcoholic. You're a whore dog. That's all there is to it. Period. It's just a lot. I'm going to tell you this. I started to say some. There are the finest people I know in the entire world are at Alcoholics Anonymous. My best friends are in Alcoholics Anonymous. They're just the most talented people I've ever known are in Alcoholics Anonymous. Don't just because you're goofy, don't try to paint a picture that we're all goofy. I feel so much better having said that. Anyway, we ended up in Houston, and we're doing pretty well. And I'm kind of raising in the ranks. And my twin brother got a job at a big old fancy bar as a bartender, and I got that job in the hotel. And he ate well, and I drank well. And life's pretty good. We're not even old enough to drink buy beer in Texas. At the time, at 18, you couldn't buy booze in Texas. we'd get somebody to buy us some alcohol, and just, we were okay. We had a little apartment over there with like 4 other guys. It was kind of crowded in this little apartment, but typical kids, and always had beer in there. But guys, nobody's getting squashed. Nobody's fighting or causing problems. We're just drinking. And there was a period of time, long period of time, I need to tell you, when alcohol absolutely worked for me. And I'm a happy little camper. And I will say it. When alcohol worked for me, you couldn't touch me. I mean, it's okay. We start, as the illness progresses, we start getting to places where it stops working. And Bill Wilson wrote about it on page 152. He talks about, you're going to get to a place where you can't imagine life living with it, and you can't imagine life living without it. Then you're going to know loneliness like few do. And that's a jumping off place for some of us, where we end up, we're going to have to get sober or die, because it's so frustrating when it stops working. And it was what I leaned on for 15 years. And I don't know. I started making some geographics. I know some of y'all can identify. I'm doing really well at that job, but I'm convinced that I need to move out of the big city, because I think that's causing me to drink as much as I'm drinking. And so I moved to Austin, Texas, which was a real mistake on my part, because Austin, Texas was a big old drinking town back then. And anybody from Texas knows, that was the home of the armadillo and progressive country western music. And I mean, you could go see Asleep at the Wheel for $5 cover. And I mean, it was, and I drank my butt off. I got a sous chef's job at a big old country club, and lasted a couple of years there. And then I just had to get out of Texas. I just knew that was going to kill me, and borrowed some money and went to Atlanta, Georgia. I didn't stay in Atlanta very long, because I had a big old hotel. We were one of the first Omni International hotels. I had a job there, but they didn't sell booze on Sundays in Atlanta, which I thought was alcohol abuse. I just I get caught not planning well and be in trouble on a Sunday, and left in about a year, 9 months or so. Came back to Texas and figured out that I couldn't be in the food business anymore. I had to get out, because that's what's causing a problem. In other words, I'm starting all these geographics, and I'm starting all these, changing jobs. When I did my first 4-step, guys, I'll cut to the chase. When I did my first 4-step, I had to make a list of all the work, all the jobs I had. I had 34 jobs on my 4-step. Guys, and I got sober at 35 years old. So, I mean, I didn't get fired from a single one of these jobs. Guys, like I said, my work ethic, nobody gonna fire me. That's for a fact. But I quit all these jobs. I just get in there, and my head would tell me I'm unhappy because of the job, or because where I live. And the truth is, internally, guys, I'm an unhappy camper. The depression's kicking my butt. And anyway, I'm making 1,000 geographic cures, and I still drive a pickup truck, because you never know when you might need to move again. And I just, oh my God, I ended up on one of my geographics. I ended up back in Houston, Texas, and I've been in and out of that town a few times. And I love Houston, but I married this little girl. I owned a barbecue restaurant there, and on the outside, again, everything looks great, folks. I mean, I'm making a little money. I got my feet on the ground, I thought, pretty well, but I own a restaurant with a bar. Okay, so I got plenty of alcohol around me all the time, and it's turned out to be not a good deal. And I get married to this little girl, and decide that we need to move up to North Texas to be closer to Myers, my twin, and me and I are besties. And he finally moved to Ingram, guys. He lives in the same town I do now for the first time in 35 years, and they better watch out. We're fixing to tear them up. I got to tell you. It says, I got a new home group member. And, again, I bought a little house up there. I was involved in a new little restaurant and a country club up there. And on the outside, again, everything looked great, but I'm just not a happy camper. I don't know. I know some of y'all can probably identify. The depression's kicking my butt. And I'm seeing a doctor about this depression. So I'm starting to take medication for depression. And things, I'm drinking on top of all that medication. So things are complicating itself pretty well. And I came home one night, guys, I got it. And had a little shoving match with my wife. And she was a sweetheart. And there was no need. I don't even remember what the fight was about. I just remember we had a big old argument and I shoved her. And of course, again, I come from this strong Baptist upbringing where, we're just not about that stuff. And scared her to death, freaked me out. She asked me to leave, and I gladly did. I was mortified that I showed my butt like that. And came back a few hours later, sobered up a little bit. She let me back in the house, and we had to talk. And I had to confess to her. She knew I was drinking, of course, but she didn't know how much. And I'd also been doing some outside issues. This is the early '80s by now, guys. And early '80s, everybody in the United States was doing cocaine, and everybody in the food business was certainly doing. We called it our alcohol enhancers, and so we were nuts. And but we'd done a little bit of that, and that wasn't the problem. But it's just in the combination of all of that and all these medications I'm on. I was crazy. And the deal I made with her that night was that I would stop. And I always say it, guys, I can't not talk and say that when I looked her in the eyes that night in that little house in Denton, Texas, and I promised her that I was going to stop drinking, I meant it with every fiber in my body. I was crying, begging her forgiveness, and I meant it. And again, there's always some old geezer in the room that wants to make fun of, if an alcoholic's mouth moving, he's lying. It's just not true, folks. I'm just telling you, I've watched a lot of people. I've worked in the treatment business for 28 years. I do clerical work at a hospital. I'm not a counselor or anything. I'm not smart enough to do any of that. But I've watched gazillions of people come into treatment and with those same tears in their eyes and begging for help. They mean it. They want it. And the problem is they don't understand what, like I didn't understand, is that I didn't have the power to manage the decision to stay stopped. I've never actually tried to stop before now, in and out, but I did this time. I made an absolute commitment that I was going to do this. And I went to AA the next day, and I went and got this psychiatrist to adjust my medications. And, And a week and a half later, the chef asked me to stay after work for a minute and go over some function sheets and sat down at the table. We had a beer and going over the sheets. And I went home and I'm patting myself on the back because I had a beer, and I walked inside and she smelled that booze on my breath, and that was it. She was done. I'd put that girl through the ringer. And my deal with her wasn't that I wasn't going to come home that I'm drunk. My deal with her was that I wasn't going to touch another drop. I never gave it a second thought. And see, guys, I don't know why I keep doing this. I don't understand. She packed and I continued to go to Alcoholics Anonymous to try to save my life. And, I'm not digging drinking anymore. It's become a pain. And I'm in and out of AA for years, guys. And I need to tell you, because I don't want anybody to misunderstand, I'm not ever going to take shots at any of those people up there in North Texas. They were sweethearts. And I got to tell you, you walk in those rooms and those people are as kind as could be. But there wasn't a big book in a place. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. There wasn't anybody in there. No, the closest you got was the steps and the traditions on the wall. And I walked in and we read how it works. And then we talked about everything under the sun except alcoholism. And I'll throw that out there to you. There's no literature in the place. And I couldn't stay sober. I'm sitting in there nodding, trying not to go to sleep as this lady talks about her dead cat one more time. And bless her heart, and I walk out and I drive straight to the 7-Eleven and buy a 6-pack of beer. And I don't understand. I had 2 weeks. I spent 7 years in Alcoholics Anonymous and never picked up a 30-day chip. Yes, I'm probably slower than most of y'all. Y'all understand? I'm not, because every time I do it and I come back in, they scrape me off the side of the plates. Well, Chris, you just got to really want to do this, and maybe you want to double up on your meetings. I said, buddy, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to a meeting every day. How many meetings do you want me to go to? Well, maybe 2 meetings a day. Yeah, we still do that today, guys. And I got to tell you, I'm not trying to be offensive in any possible way, folks. This idea that you got to go to 1 million meetings to get sober, buddy, show me anything in our literature that talks about that. Anything. That's just not true. And it sets people up for failure. Some of y'all are frowning. Okay, go to a meeting every day. rock on. If you think that's going to keep you sober, please. Let me tell you what happened to me, guys. I said it at Founders Day this year, guys. I'm going to tell you, if I could click my finger like this and get one thing out of AA, it would be 90 meetings in 90 days. We're setting people up for failure with that stuff, guys, especially women. Okay, we see it all the time. Single mom with 2 kids, trying to work. She is not going to be able to go to a meeting every day unless it's Zoom. Yay, Zoom. Okay. Yeah, she's not gonna. Meetings don't treat alcoholism. God treats alcoholism, the spiritual experience. And how do I get connected to God? Work the steps. Bill Wilson was pretty clear. Let me tell you, 1987, I'm on all kinds of medications, guys, and I'm going to meetings all the time, and I can't stay sober. And I went home one day, picked up a 12-pack of Black Label beer. Is a rock gut beer. I don't know. I just remember at the time it was the cheapest beer you could buy, and bought it. Went up to my little apartment. And there was a couple little stinky ferrets in there, and I picked up a stack of return checks, and I'm going to have to go borrow money and from my sister-in-law and pay those bills off. And I don't know. I bankrupted another checking account. And I'm living in a town I don't want to live in, and there's no girlfriend, and I'm working at a job I'm no good at. And I just like, okay. And I went to the medicine cabinet and took some pills and tried to commit suicide. I'm just done, guys. I've been to treatment. I've done everything y'all have asked me to do. I've done. I've sat naked in sweat lodges. I've go to church built like a teepee. I mean, a pyramid thing. And I'm doing everything. I aborted that attempt that night. I believe God was all over it. And I heard this voice said, go back to AA. And I'm arguing because I don't want to go back to AA. I've done it. It's not working for me. And I knew it worked for some of you because I'm watching some people get sober. But I walked in the back door the next day. I got to tell you, God was all over it. There was a piece of equipment that never break down in that bookbinder where I'm working for Myers. And it broke down that day. And because it did, I was late getting off work. I was going to get off early, go take a shower, go back to the meetings I used to go to. But I was running so late, I had to go straight because I made a promise that I was going to go back. And I went to a meeting I'd never been to before. And turned out to be really God-led. I walked in the back door of this meeting, and this little old girl, I got real self-conscious. The little girl stopped me from leaving the room, set me down in a chair, got me a cup of coffee. And a chairperson had seen me in North Texas and kept waving me up to the front. I'm so damn shy. I can't, I'm the shyest guy in the room, guys. I am. And I just, I'm going to sit in my seat. My seat is this far from the back door always. So I can, Somebody always asks me this. They say, what was the hardest part about getting sober? I'm going to tell you, the hardest thing I did in Alcoholics Anonymous was not working the steps. The hardest thing I did was get off that wall in that chair and get at the big table with everybody else. Becoming a part of something. Because it took everything for me to get off that back wall. And I got in that chair and wasn't gonna do anything. The chairperson kept looking at me. I knew something was up, and he looked at the wall. And they started the meetings beautifully, just like y'all did. We did some great readings before, and then he said, "Man, we got a newcomer coming back, and why don't we tell Chris how our lives have changed as a result of working the steps?" And I like, man, I've been in AA for 7 years, guys. I never heard that topic as a meeting. Here's what I hear every time I come back in. Why don't we tell Chris how we got here? And then I'm going to grow my eyes and grind my teeth because we're going to get to go around the room and listen to how many drunk driving charges you have and how many people you killed and how many times you went to prison and all the scary things that we do as alcoholics sometimes. Yeah. And I'm not knocking that, guys. Yeah, I am. This is a program of honesty. I'm knocking the daylights out of that. I absolutely am. And I think from Friday night on podium, y'all going to tell some of your stories, guys. I am now. But in a meeting, I got to tell you, we need to be sharing some hope with these newcomers. I get emails from all over the world because I get to speak all over the world. And I get emails from all over people. You think AA ought to, I don't understand. You think AA ought to be a pep rally or something every meeting? I said, yes, I do. Yeah. It may be the only opportunity that some newcomer gets to hear some hope. We don't need to hear how you crawled in a dumpster and ate. Yeah, I did crawl in a dumpster for a day or two. Yeah, but I've never had a single email in all my years of sobriety from somebody that said, Chris, I heard you talk about eating out of dumpsters and I stopped drinking that day. Not one. And I get thousands of emails from people that say, God dang it, I got excited about recovery. I said, yeah, come on, brother. We damn sure need you. I'm going to tell you guys, always when I share, they went around the room that night. It was one of those typical AA meetings. Y'all, some of you old guys in there, y'all remember the days when we used to be able to smoke in every AA meeting we could smoke. And there was been long 6-foot tables with ashtrays about the size of a trash can lid, sitting in the middle of the tables. And everybody had about 6 cigarettes in their mouth, all smoking at the same time. Oh, we just ruined it for the you new guys. And everybody's smoking in there, and the ceiling's dropping, the smoke coming. It's amazing. And but they all went around the room, and a little lady kind of catty-corny from me. She was a year or so sober. She had held up her car keys, and she was jingling them. And she said, I got me a brand new car sitting out in that parking lot. And 2 weeks earlier, I just been turned down for a little car loan for an old used pickup truck I was trying to buy. And this little girl got her a brand new car. She's all excited, guy next to her had started a little landscape business. He's an old country boy, and he got him a business started, and he's all excited. And he was the same thing. He was about a year and a half sober, kicking butt. And lady at the end of the table had a sketch pad. She'd gone back to art school. Y'all can see the pictures on the wall here. I'm an art fan. I come from a family of artists, and I am completely talentless. I got none of that talent, but I love art. And she had my attention. She'd gone back to school. Guy sitting next to me and had his billfold, and he flopped it down in front of me and had little Polaroid pictures of his little kids. And he'd come to AA and met this little girl, and they got married and had a couple little rat kids. And oh my God. And he was, tears in his eyes when he was talking about these little kids. And I just I'm looking around this room, guys. I'm less than 24 hours away, literally less than 24 hours away from a suicide attempt. I didn't try to commit suicide, guys, because I was drunk. I'd had 3 beers. I tried to commit suicide because I felt absolutely useless and hopeless. And these people didn't know that I'd tried to commit suicide, but they gave me the one thing that I needed, which was hope. That your life could change. I spent 7 years sitting in Alcoholics Anonymous, listening to people tell me, try to scare me into recovery with their scary war stories. And now I got a bunch of people in this room telling me that my life could change. At the end of the meeting, the old geezer asked me if I wanted to stay sober one day at a time. And I picked up what was going to be my last desire chip. I've got it in the closet right behind me. And on the way out, they asked me if I could stop for a few minutes and sit with them and go over a few things. Maybe we could help you figure out why you can't stay sober. Of course, I'm offended. Y'all understand that, guys. I've got the best psychiatrist money can buy in North Texas. I'm on all kinds of medications, all doctor prescribed. I'm not at their doctor shopping like you losers. I mean, I'm the real McCoy. I'm a very sick individual, And now these old guys got big books with duct tape around the back, and they want to try to help me figure out why I can't stay sober. And damn if they didn't, folks. And they sat me down, guys, and this didn't take 20 or 30 minutes. And I've got a little guide that I use with my newcomers that do exactly what they did to me. We didn't start at the title page and start reading, guys. They started cherry picking some sentences in the book that explained what alcoholism was. And in about 20, 30 minutes, they explained to me what alcoholism was. They showed me the symptoms of the disease. Guys, they saved my life, because for the first time, driving home that night, going to my little apartment with crying, in my truck, I understood what was wrong with me. I'd call myself an alcoholic for 7 years, guys. I didn't even more believe it than the man in the moon, because my story is different than your story, and I'm not doing the crazy stuff you're doing. But when they started explaining the symptoms, the physical craving is beautifully explained in the doctor's opinion in the first 20 pages. And then from 23 to 43, where they talked about the mental obsession. Guys, I got to tell you, when I read that paragraph, we have lost the power of choice in drink. It shook my world, because I understood. Bill Wilson uses the term insanity over and over around alcohol. I understood for the first time that I was like you people. And they said, Chris, if you'll keep coming with us, we're going to work you through these steps pretty quick. We'll get you a sponsor. I didn't even own a big book in 7 years, guys. And I said, we'll get you a big book. And I said, we'll hook you up. And I guarantee you, you can have a spiritual experience. And that obsession to use will leave and you can recover from alcoholism. First time I'd ever heard that. What do you mean you can recover? We're always going to be recovering. That's crap. Big book tells us dozens of places in the book that you can recover. I said, okay. Next day, we went to a 10 o'clock meeting and they chased a bunch of the Al-Anon ladies out of the back room and afterwards. And 2 or 3 of us got on our knees and did a 3rd step prayer and went to lunch, came back and they gave me a little notebook. Somebody got me a little notebook and we started working on a 4th step. They showed me how to do it. And got 2 weeks later, I've got a completed 4th step. I'm waiting for my sponsor to get back in town so we can dump a 5th step. And I'm sitting on the tailgate of my truck up in North Texas in my little apartment complex. And I'm looking around and I've got 7-Eleven and stop and go around me. And I've got guys, I'm surrounded by alcohol and drugs. There's a bar I got a tab in right across the way. It's Friday. I got a pocket full of money, not much money, but money. And it dawns on me that I don't want to drink. I don't want to drink, one day at a time. I'm done. The obsession to use had been lifted. Guys, that was all those years ago. And I am not thought obsessed about alcohol since. I'd spent all of those years, guys. I mean, I'm a kid that couldn't not drink. I can stop for short periods of time. I just can't stay stopped because that internal discomfort comes back and kicks my butt. I don't know, guys. They got me real busy in that group, guys. And I need to tell you, they started talking to me about the literature in Alcoholics Anonymous. Again, I'm in AA 7 years. I don't own a big book. I don't know. There's not any literature. I don't know anything about other literature, guys. And I knew what the 24-hour-a-day book was. There was one there was a lot of topics brought out of that and back in the day. But I didn't have any of that literature. And these guys started showing me in there. See that? Look at that book right back there on the bookshelf. There's a Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers. And you ought to read that. Maybe you learn some history there. And I'd get it. And I was always been a reader. And I'd pick it up and I'd finish that and say, well, Chris, what are you reading now? Let me show you this one, man. This one, AA Comes of Age. This was a really... Guys, when you start reading the history of Alcoholics Anonymous and you start reading what those early guys in AA went through, I'm going to tell you, to be a part of this whole thing, it was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And I'm forever grateful for those folks. I got to tell you real quick, they threw me under the bus. They took me to my first group conscience. I'd never been to a group conscience. They said, Chris, we want to nominate you as chairman of the cleanup committee here at this group. And some of y'all heard me talk about it. I am not interested in that. Okay. I know I'm in the food business. I know how to clean a kitchen, but I'm not interested. You get your own. I'm the newcomer. Remember, I'm the most important person here. You clean your own club. And anyway, I went 2 weeks later. I went and it was about a week after I'd had that spiritual experience sitting on the tailgate of my pickup truck in North Texas. And I went to that group conscience and those knuckleheads nominated me and voted me in 100%, every hand up, voted me in as chairman of the cleanup committee. And I was mad, folks. I got to tell you, was not smiling. And I'd been railroaded. And I went in the kitchen to help them kind of clean up the kitchen after the meeting, and everybody was leaving. And this old guy one of the guys that had stopped me going out the door that night, and he had stopped me and he said, I'd ask him, I said, can I have a list maybe of the other group members that are on my committee so that I could organize a cleaning rotation for our club here? And he spit coffee clear across the kitchen. He was laughing his butt off. He spit coffee and he said, Chris, there's no committee. You're the janitor. Welcome to world. Here, he handed me the keys. Here's the keys to the club. You good luck. He showed me where the vacuum cleaner was, and then he left. And I made a commitment that I was never going to go back. And I stayed gone 2 days, and then went back. And I went in. It was a Friday afternoon again, and I went in about 1 o'clock. Myers let me off, and I locked myself into that club and clean that place like a big dog. Guys, I got to tell you, I do know how to clean a place. And I clean that kitchen and those little coffee pots with all that brown crap in there. And I got it, clean those stupid bathrooms. What is it about AA club bathrooms? It's like an Exxon station. I don't understand. We should know better and don't. I don't know. Like, clean those places all spotless. And got those tables all lined up, got the cigarette butts out of the place. And I mean, I'm going to tell you, I had a ruler in there. I brought my own ruler so I could set the chairs up, I've been in the catering business, guys, for years. I know how to clean them. Got it all set up. And I'm sitting back in the back. I can't not tell this story, guys. And I'm sitting in the back room where the meeting starts at 6. And seen the same meeting that I came into, guys, 4 weeks earlier. And sitting back there, and I got a pot of coffee made. And I saw the little matriarch of the group. I could hear her. You couldn't see her. I mean, she was like, I don't know. She's 3 feet tall. I don't know. She's this little lady. She was about 140 years old. She just looked like a little question mark with slippers. She just kind of shuffled in. Bless her heart. And she walked in, and I could hear her squealing in the kitchen. And I was smiling. She went around to the bathroom. I thought she was going to pass out. And she came back around, looked around the corner, and she said, "Did you clean this place?" And it's just me and her in the room. I'm sitting there in my little finest Fruit of the Loom t-shirt. I'm soaking wet. I've been working my butt off for hours in that club. And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she walked around behind me, shuffled around like that. And I'm sitting in that little chair. And she got her little skinny arm around my neck and gave me a little back hug. And I want to cry every time because I remember it like it was yesterday. She gave me a little hug and she said, "Boy, we need you here." I'm going to say it again, guys. I didn't try to commit suicide because I was drunk. I tried to commit suicide because I felt completely useless. And all of a sudden, guys, these men and women in that AA group understood that if I didn't get busy, I wasn't going to stay. I'm not taking a shot at any of those other people that I went to AA meetings with all those years, but it was a stance of, you're not sober long enough to do this. You're not sober long enough to, man, they made me literature chair at that group. I was a few months over. They made cleanup chairman right there. I mean, they started teaching, "Chris, come up here. Let's show you how to chair a meeting." I'm not old. I'm not sober long enough to chair a meeting. He said, "Chris, there's nowhere in the book that says you've got to be a year sober. Come on up here. Let's show you how to do this. We may need you one day." Those people saved my life. I'm going to tell you, it was old people in Alcoholics Anonymous that said, "You find a job in AA, you'll stay. If you don't, you're going to sit on the back and feel sorry for yourself until you just can't stand the pain." Self-pity is what kills alcoholics. And these people wouldn't let me do that. "Chris, there's a conference Saturday night, big conference in Dallas. Okay, we're going to pick you up at 7. "Well, why don't you ask me, "Chris, are you doing anything Saturday night? Would you like to go to a conference? We've already paid for your ticket. Okay, let's go." It's like, okay. I had to go. And that was the thing that absolutely saved my life. They got me absolutely busy. Young people, old people, they involved me in the group. I got to tell you guys, I was a home group member there for 5 years and moved to the Hill Country. It's where I got my second sponsor, Mark H., who passed away. Glenn knew him real well, and he's a wonderful, wonderful old guy. And we lost him too early, but he, same stuff. He got me real active. We started our own little group, guys. We didn't want to go into groups where we would introduce ourselves as recovered alcoholics and then have to take the heat from everybody in the group. We wanted a literature-based meeting where we would go in and we would read the literature, read a paragraph or study the book and understand what Bill Wilson was trying to teach us. And we did. We started a little group there. And when the complexion of there changed after Mark died, we started a little group in Ingram called Ingram Solution Group. And we started a little AA recovery club. So all the little groups that meet there, there's 5 or 6 groups that meet there, and you got to be literature based to meet there. If you want to just have an open discussion where you talk about your day, you can't meet at that group. You have to get that club. You got to go someplace else, and that's fine. There's lots of places for groups to meet. If you're going to go to the Outpost, whether you're a CA meeting or a Drug Addicts Anonymous meeting or an AA meeting, it's going to be literature based meeting, so people can know that you're going to get some solution there. We love it. So if y'all are in Ingram, Texas, ever, y'all come see us at the Outpost. We got I don't know. We love it. So we just made tacos for this conference. We set up there, got everybody ready at 4:00 in the morning, made breakfast tacos. I think they rolled 400 breakfast tacos. I'm out there cooking my butt off. Golly, I'm going to have to get an apprentice soon. I'll be 68 in the next week, and I'm getting too old for that nonsense. It's too much work. I got to mention real quick where I'll let you guys go. There's no Al-Anon quote. It says, we cannot drop out of human involvement without endangering our spiritual health. And I got to tell you, I was so blessed that when I landed in that group, a bunch of men and women that didn't spend a bunch of time. In fact, they didn't spend any time with me telling me what I couldn't do. All they did was spend a bunch of time telling me what I could do. And when it came time for me to start a little screen print business, I was 6 months sober. They said, buddy, rock on. Just don't be a stranger here. Stay close. And I did. It didn't affect. The business wasn't successful, but I was fascinated with it and just enjoyed the daylights out of it. Just never worked so hard in my life. And it was just my life just woke up as a result of working the steps and sitting in the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous and rubbing elbows with other people who'd had spiritual experiences. I started business and I got in a cool relationship. The relationship didn't last, but she was a sweetheart. When I was blessed to have been in that relationship, and when we broke up, we didn't have to kill each other. It was so nice, learned how to do some cool things and actually grow up in AA at 35. And these were men and women that taught me. I'd walk in a room and one of the ladies would say, Chris, you cannot wear that shirt in here. That's just terrible. Okay. Tomorrow, just don't wear it again. Okay. Okay. I don't know. I owe my life to the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got to tell you, I owe my sobriety to working the 12 steps. And I still to this day try to get my little newcomers. I'm sitting in these meetings and Myers is a master at it. We're watching that little newcomer. Y'all know the little newcomer. When y'all walk in, he's the little guy sitting in the back by himself looking at the floor. Maybe he has a cup of coffee or not. He doesn't have a big book and he's sitting there looking at he's the newcomer. Okay. I've done it a million times and I've not always been good about doing that. I get busy with my sponsees and get busy because I'm so important, and I do that today. I mean, I'm actively over there looking and go over there and sit next to him. I've watched Myers do it a million times. He'll sit next to that newcomer and love on him a little bit and get him a big book. We got to, guess what? We got us a new home group member. Yeah. This idea, because they don't stay doesn't mean they don't want it. They didn't feel welcome. I can get on some Zooms, guys. Y'all remember getting on this one earlier this morning and y'all are all laughing and talking and just taking shots at each other, just having a good time. And welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. Sometimes I get on these Zooms and there's 10 grumpy old bastards sitting down looking at the table, not a voice, not a sound in the place. It's like, oh boy, I can't wait to come back to that group. I don't even want to talk at that group, but here I am, no, I didn't understand when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous that there's lots of different ways to do meetings. The fourth tradition allows us to set meetings up any way we want. A lot of you guys I know, when y'all been to a gazillion meetings, guys, if you go into a meeting and you don't feel the juice, man, you just get up, go to another meeting. That's the beauty of the Zooms. I mean, you can pop around to a gazillion. You can go to a dozen meetings this morning, for heaven's sakes. And, you can find the good ones that you like and be a part of those meetings. Get connected to a bunch of folks. Because I'm going to tell you the same thing. The same thing that old lady told me. We need you. We need everybody in Alcoholics Anonymous that's here. We need you to be here. The little voice in the back of your head that tells you that you're worthless, that you are not sober long enough to help anyone, that you're not smart enough. That's the spiritual warfare that every single one of us in this room have to deal with. There's 30 people in this gathering right now, and I got to tell you, all 30 of us have to do this. The spiritual warfare is this little voice that tells us that we can't help anybody, that we're not good enough, that we can't. Guys, and I'm going to tell you, don't think for a second that you're going to know who that person is that's going to help you. Man, I look and I look back at my history in these rooms, and I look back at the people that changed my lives. I'd like to tell you it was the guy that was 100 years sober, the guru of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to tell you, did I get something from that person? Yeah, I did. But my life was changed by some of the people in my men's group, that my little accountability group, with that little knucklehead that had 90 days sober, that started holding me accountable about some stuff that I was doing. Y'all, you think for a second that I thought this little 90-day sober guy was going to check? Hey, remember me? I'm the guy with 33 years of, yeah, buddy, don't try to second guess it. God's going to put people in your life that'll change just change you completely if you'll come in and open your mind. But the piece I want to hit home is that you're going to change somebody. If you'll show up with the right attitude and keep looking around for somebody that you can help, I guarantee you're going to be changed. Bill Wilson understood it, guys. I get to talk at Akron in November. I get to go back for their intergroup. I couldn't go there for Founders Day this year. I got to speak, but I wasn't there. And we're going to go back for intergroup in November if this COVID stuff doesn't get bad again. And I'm going to get to go up there to the Mayflower Hotel and stand in that lobby where Bill Wilson had to make a decision. Am I going to go find another alcoholic to work with, or am I going to go get drunk? And I cannot tell you how many times I've watched this, guys. Working with others is the foundation stone of our life. Big Book says it. In the first days of convalescence, nothing will so much help us stay sober as intensive work with other alcoholics. That means, guys, if you're sitting in this room and you've got somebody telling you that you can't work with others for a year, you need to go find somebody else, perhaps. I'm sure they mean well, but it contradicts what the Big Book is saying. This is one of the reasons that we watch so many newcomers not stay sober, because all we let them do is go to a bunch of meetings. I'm going to go back. I'm going to loop it around again. Just sit in a meeting, guys. If you're a real alcoholic or a real dope fiend in those other meetings, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to stay sober doing that. You'll gradually become so uncomfortable you can't stand it. Your head will tell you it's time to, you'll go use. Get out there and get active, guys. Get you a little newcomer around the neck and go see if you can help. Doesn't necessarily mean you got to sponsor them at 60 days. I was sponsoring it at 60 days. Somebody said 60 was almost, I was almost 90 days sober. And a little guy come ask me to sponsor him. And I looked at my sponsor, and my sponsor crossed his arms like this and said, and that looked like, you better do what's right. And I said, yes, okay, I will. And then I went over there to hug my sponsor. Help me. I'm in over my head. You are. Your life's fixing to change forever. You got you a protege. Don't screw it up. And guys, you're going to make mistakes. But as long as you're coming out of the Big Book and leaning on the old timers to help you, you can't mess it up. It's a train wreck already. Just get in there and find you somebody to help, and you're going to be blessed. And I got to tell you guys, I'm honored. I got to go. I'm honored to know every one of you, and so blessed that y'all asked me to speak. And I will, if that chat opens up, I'll put my little email in there. If y'all need me for anything, or y'all want any of that, I can send you that little index thing, and I'll be glad to do that. I love y'all. Y'all have a good day.